Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to all of you. Everybody is entering this virtual space as we speak. So good to see you all. So many different countries. Good afternoon and good morning, of course, to all of you in the US. Um, we are very happy to be able to offer you this meeting. It was a bit of a spur of the moment thing, and I'm very happy that Anne and Virginie were also enthusiastic to collaborate and to share their exhibitions with you. So that's what we're going to do today. So what we are going to do is we are going to begin with Anne van Kamp. She's the Christopher Brown Curator of Northern European Art at the Ashmolean Museum in Oxford. And she will first give us a short introduction about her exhibition in Oxford that is on show now. And she will show it with a video, especially made for this meeting. And then she will give the floor to Virginie Dane, and she will talk about the exhibition in Antwerp that took place last year. And after that, we return to Anne, and she will talk about her exhibition in Oxford and go into that a bit more in detail. And then after those presentations, Virginie and Anne will discuss their collaboration, and they will focus on three of the works they've exhibited and compare the two exhibitions. So that's the program for today. And at the end, as I said, you will be able to ask some questions if you want to. So now I'm very happy to give the floor to Anne.
Thank you so much, Marshall. And as I want to repeat as well, it's such a pleasure to be able to do this CODARTfocus because I realize a lot of our overseas colleagues won't be able to make the trip to Oxford. So at least we'll sort of be able to give them a glimpse of what happened in Oxford and also a glimpse into sort of the curatorial process of the international partnership with the Museum Plantem Moretus. So my lovely new curatorial intern, Sophie Scott, has made a video, a sort of walkthrough, a 10-minute walkthrough of the exhibition. You're at the Ashmolean now on the third floor in our exhibition galleries. And so we walk through, and so we start from the entrance. So here you have our entrance corridor with our acknowledgement panel, also acknowledging the partnership with Plantem Moretus, and then this lovely view of Antwerp to draw the visitors in over our bridge. And so here we are in the introductory area, which was already quite different from the show in Antwerp because we had to set a geographic setting, because of course our visitors might not be familiar with cities like Antwerp or Brussels or the term Flemish. And then opposite our introduction section, we sort of showed a selection of 4 drawings, which were almost randomly selected to sort of show the different techniques and uses. Then here we are, so the exhibition is divided in 3 functions: copies and sketches, designing, and independent drawings. Here we are in the first room, dedicated to sketching and copying. And so I started with one of my favorite subjects, which is Flemish artists sketching after the antique. So we got ruins, ancient statues, gems, and here a very special drawing, the Source of Belvedere from the Rubens house, which is very fragile. And for that reason, we have a movement sensor on it. So I don't know if you captured that. It was cast in shadow before, and then when you walk in front of it, the light jumps on for 10 seconds. So it goes from 0 lux to 20 lux, which is still really low. And what I'm really excited about is in Oxford, because we have these archaeological collections, we were able to show it with the cast opposite. Then we also have a section on copying after other artworks. And here we got one of the star pieces of the exhibition, some sketches that Rubens made after Hans Holbein woodcuts. And of course, you can't see the entire album, so we put a facsimile, which the Plantem Moretus Museum provided next to it, so visitors can leaf through it. And then other drawings after other artworks, so after paintings, drawings, prints, sculptures. And then in Oxford, we also focused on the actual act of drawing. And so I had lots of fun creating this showcase at the back of the first room where I tried to recreate Rubens's drawing desk. And of course, this is completely fictional and made up in my mind. But what I did is I scoured the Ashmolean collections. I went to the coin room, I went to the antiquities department, my own department for Renaissance bronzes, and looked for objects that Rubens drew, or versions, or copies, or miniature versions. Um, and then sort of made comparisons with the objects that the Ashmolean has. So here we see the spinario, we've got some Roman coins, we've got some intaglios, some gems, we've got a model of the Torso Belvedere, we've got a bust of the Pseudo Seneca. And these are all, you can all see these in drawings by Rubens. And so these obviously are not the real drawings, but we made facsimiles, which we then sort of scattered in that showcase. But it looks very convincing. And then here we have a showcase featuring the materials and techniques alongside the Bruegel sketchbooks from the Flemish government to really sort of show visitors how drawings are made. And here we even got a lovely video from Antwerp of the different drawings techniques. Then another section in the first room is sketching from life and nature. So we've got some tronies to start with, a relatively unknown drawing attributed by Jordans of a bald man, the lovely Cornelis de Vos girl. Then, of course, our famous Rubens portrait of Arundel. And then we move into sketching from nature. And this is sort of the most popular corner in the exhibition because we got a worm from the Ashmolean next to the dog from the Plant Emeritus. And then, so here you see the worm. And so it's probably the only worm that you will ever see in an Old Master Drawings exhibition worldwide ever. So it's quite special and everyone loves it, like children, adults. So then we move into our second room with the design drawings, and the design section of the exhibition is divided in subsections depending on what the final work for the design was for. So here we got the section devoted to stained glass windows, then metalwork, which is quite a popular section as well, because you don't often get the metal objects which have survived for the drawings because they were often melted down to fund all the warfare that was going on in the 16th and 17th century, and even a silver plate from Antwerp. Here a design feature we did, we put zoom blow up images of the drawings on the ends of the walls. And then here we're in the main space of the second room. And so as you can see, I tried to show as many drawings double-sided to really sort of hone down on that materiality of the drawings like they were. They're not like the artworks, the precious artworks that we have nowadays in our museum collections, but they were used by artists on their desks and so to show the double-sidedness of that. Then here's the section on designs for paintings, and then two Ashmolean drawings. And then we put one version of a drawing with a painting to sort of make sense. Here then the section designs for sculpture, where we have a lovely double-sided drawing from Plant Emeritus for a statue in the funerary chapel of Rubens. And then on the back, Verderber, who designed the statue, made some nude studies, which is possibly blasphemous to sort of juxtapose these nude studies next to a statue of the Virgin Mary. Then some designs for towel racks, designs for wooden sculpture by Rubens. Then we move into designs for temporary decorations and architecture. And so these are, we start with two drawings for joyous entry. So when the Spanish government, when a new Spanish governor was appointed to rule over the southern Netherlands, they would enter their cities to establish their power. And we got a lovely example by Stradanus, and my Italian colleagues are like, why are you showing Stradanus? He's Italian, but of course he was Jan van der Straat and Flemish, so that's why he's in the show. And then here you say, why do you put oil sketches in your exhibition? But it's about the first idea of the paintings that Rubens made for the Charles Borromeus Church in Antwerp. And so he made those on wooden panels. Then we move into designs for prints and book illustrations. And of course, here you got our most famous Flemish drawing, The Temptation of St. Anthony by Bruegel, which is on all the posters and catalog covers. And we also just managed to acquire the print for which the drawing was a design. So this is the first time that they're being shown side by side, which we're very proud of. And then the rest of the designs for prints and book illustrations here in cases with copper plates from the Planta Moretus Museum, which we were able to show next to the designs and the final printed versions. And here's some more examples of print designs with the print at the top and the drawing at the bottom. And in the middle, the Battle of the Amazons from Christchurch, which is copied after the painting in Munich. And here we are in the last section of the design drawings, designs for tapestries. And so these are the petit patrons, the smaller designs. And then here we have the large scale cartoons, which were used by the weavers underneath their loom to weave the tapestries. And so these drawings, this set was made for the Vatican tapestries of the Scuola Nova, but they were made in Brussels in a workshop by mixed Flemish and Italian draftsmen, hence their inclusion in the exhibition. Then in the third room, we have a drawing station where our visitors can have a go themselves, being inspired by the drawings. As you see, the worm is very popular, probably because it's relatively easy. Lots of kids use it, but also students, retired people, really, really lots of talents in Oxford. And then the final section is the third function of the independent drawings. So here you see drawings which were made as independent artworks for sale or to be given. And then this is our subsection of the friendship sheets where artists gave or exchanged drawings with fellow artists. And so you see, for instance, a self-portrait by Jan Cossiers, which has never been on display or published before. You see a friendship sheet by Rubens taken from a friendship album. And then some Hoofnagels, one from the Planta Moretus, and this is the Ashmolean's Hoofnagel, which is not as famous as the Antwerp one, but I really love it. And now we have as tea towels and magnets in our shop, proving very popular. And then the concept of an album amicorum, a friendship album, is unknown in the UK. So this has been a real revelation for our UK visitors, where people, friends, acquaintances, colleagues make contributions in a friendship album or a poesie album, as we call it in Dutch. And here we got a lovely example by Ortelius in his nephew's friendship album. And we've got a tablet alongside where people can scroll through the different pages of the album, because it's always so frustrating if you can only see one opening of the album. And then the final section in the exhibition is that of the independent landscape drawings, sort of to rest the eye after all the beautiful, exuberant drawings that they've witnessed earlier in the exhibition. And sort of the star pieces, of course, are Rubens' landscape drawing from his later years of the countryside around his country estate at Steen in Ehleret. And so this is sort of the independent drawing because he just made them for his own pleasure, never sold them, and they remained in his collection when he died. And then, of course, we exit through the gift shop. And so here you got our lovely range of products, catalogs, magnets, mugs, tea towels, T-shirts, tote bags, postcards. And I think that's the end of our video.
So, thank you, Anne, for giving me the floor. So I will introduce to you the exhibition in Antwerp, which was titled From Scribble to Cartoon, Drawings from Bruegel to Rubens. And it was on show in Museum Planta Moretus in Antwerp from November 17th, 2023 to the 18th of February 2024. And so I will tell you a bit more on how the Museum Planta Moretus came to the idea of making this exhibition and how we collaborated with Oxford and also how our show was a bit different from the show in Oxford. So because it was certainly not a one-to-one takeover. So how did the idea for this exhibition originate? Our museum, Museum Plantem Moretus, is widely known as the caretaker of the famous Plantem Press, so one of the most important publishing houses in Europe in the 16th and 17th century. And much less known is that our museum also holds a remarkable collection of old master drawings. So we have a collection of around 4,500 old master drawings, which are mostly from the southern Netherlands. And in 2018-19, many of our drawings were placed on the so-called masterpiece list of the Flemish government. And this is a list that offers special protection to rare and indispensable art objects in Flanders. And the inclusion of our drawings on this list raised awareness of the importance of this collection, of these drawing collections, both within our own institution, but also beyond. And so this is, when the first idea for making this exhibition was born. And so it was initially intended as an exhibition of the 100 most beautiful old master drawings held in Flemish public and private collections. And so together, these drawings would provide an overview of the art of drawing in the southern Netherlands in the 16th and 17th century. However, I did not want to make a simple highlight exhibition, and I really wanted to also tell a story with these drawings. And I've always been fascinated by the function of drawings. So every drawing has been made for a very specific reason, and understanding this reason is essential for understanding this type of objects. And at the same time, the function of drawings is also something that is often neglected in discussions on drawings. So the idea was on making an exhibition focusing on functions of drawings and how the form of a drawing follows its function. So for this approach, on this focus on function, the Museum Plantem Moretus received a grant from the Getty Paper Projects for doing research and making an extensive catalogue. And this was actually very important for us because we are a rather small museum where usually we are not in a position of taking a lot of time for doing research nor making an extensive catalogue. And so thanks to this grant, the exhibition grew into an ambitious project on which a team of international experts collaborated, both for the selection of the works in the exhibition, but also for the essays and the entries in the catalogue. And so it's also in this context that we were looking for a second venue of the exhibition in Oxford, because it was, for us, it was a rather big project, and it was important for our museum that the exhibition and the collection had an international visibility. And so I approached Anne van Kamp, who also collaborated to our catalogue as an author. And I approached her with the question whether she wants to also show the exhibition in the Ashmolean. She was very interested in the concept and the selection, but she obviously also wanted to show the Ashmolean's collection of Flemish drawings. And so this is how it happened that the exhibition in Oxford is similar to the one in Antwerp, yet also very different. And so on the collaboration, so because it is similar yet also very different, it was also very stimulating. So apart from having this visibility of our project, so it was very stimulating, the collaboration, because of the very interesting discussions Anne and I could have as curators on the topic of both the exhibitions. So we really discussed the approach, the selected works, even the essays for the catalogue. And so it often led to better ideas and more nuanced interpretations. And so, for example, I had initially not selected the Gamma Tiberiana, or the study of the head of Henri IV, which you can see here on our wall. And so Anne really insisted on having them for her show, which resulted that I also ended up showing them in Antwerp. And a similar thing happened for this friendships album of Johannes Gevartius, with a drawing by Abraham Ortelius. It was also initially not selected in the exhibition, but Anne had included in her exhibition and in her essay on independent drawings in our catalogue, a friendships album of Emmanuel van Meteren with a very similar drawing by Abraham Ortelius, which reminded me of the fact that we also have such a specialty. And so this is how it also was added to our exhibition. So so the collaboration was very stimulating, and at the other hand, also for our museum a challenge, because we are a very small museum with limited staff, and we did not really have any experience in the field of bringing an exhibition to another country. And so, of course, at the very moment that we were very busy opening our exhibition, Oxford needed a lot of input for their exhibition, images, information for the works that had to travel, and so on. So this was certainly a challenging moment. But in the end, I think both the exhibitions turned out to be just perfect. And for me, it's also very refreshing to see the exhibition in Oxford, to see the exhibition in Antwerp totally in a totally different setting. So how did the exhibition in Antwerp look like? It was in setup very similar to the setup in Oxford. So the exhibition was arranged in 3 large themes, following the functions of the most important function of the drawings in 16th and 17th century. So there was a first room dedicated to studies, then we had 2 rooms dedicated to design, where we had subdivided it in designs for paintings, print and book illustrations, sculpture, glass, and tapestry. And then we had a final room on independent drawings. I already said that the selection in Antwerp and Oxford was it's not entirely the same. And you have seen already a couple of highlights from the show in Antwerp. So I wanted to show a couple of highlights that were only on view in Antwerp. And this is one of my very favorite ones. And I think this was the only opportunity in your life to see this work fully. It's our panorama of the island of Walcheren in Zeeland by Antonius van den Wijngaarden. So it's a 16th century view on Walcheren, which is more than 10 meters long. And so it was a huge challenge in terms of display. First of all, for finding a room where we could show this theme, 10-meter long panorama, because our museum, it's a historical site, so all the rooms are rather small. So this work didn't even fit within the rooms of the exhibition, and we had to move it to the old library of the family Moretus, where it suited perfectly. And so the connection with the history of the publishing house is, of course, is very important for us, and it's also important in our exhibitions. And so several drawings in our exhibition attested to the collaboration between Rubens and the publisher Balthasar Moretus. And here we see a design by Rubens for sculptures that he made for Balthasar Moretus. And so in our museum, we not only preserve in the archives the design by Rubens, but also the statues that were executed probably by Hans van Mildert after these designs. And so what was also very nice is that in the past, the authenticity of these sculptures had been doubted. And so now for the exhibition, we did some dendrochronology chronological research, which demonstrated that the statues are in fact from the early 17th century, and so contemporary to the designs by Rubens. And so another very nice confrontation that we made was our Rubens drawings with Hercules and the Nemean lion, which we confronted with a terracotta sculpture from the Rubens house in Antwerp, and which is in our catalogue, fully attributed to Artis Qualinus for the first time by Bieke van Mark from the Rijksmuseum. And so these pictures also brings me to one of the challenges of having two shows with the same light-sensitive drawings. So as where Anne also has already touched upon, so as a lot of drawings had to be on view for 2 times, so in total 6 months. So we made a decision of showing them at 35 lux, which was, so we had agreed upon 40 lux, but in the end even 35 lux was really okay to see the drawings perfectly. So, but a couple of drawings had been shown already often in the past, and so we needed to be more careful with them, and so we decided to show them with no direct light falling upon them, and so you can see them here without light. And then we had installed a light button which you had to press to light them up at a maximum of 35 lux. And here you can see the difference. And here you have the Torso Belvedere by Rubens, so not lighted, confronted with the other works that are with more light. And so it's a system that worked very well, and which was also very well received. And so each selected drawing in the exhibition really added to the story on functions that we wanted to tell. And so there was a lot of information that we wanted to share with the public, which also led to intense discussion with our education departments, so to find a good balance between experience and education. And so what we did was we had very traditional, we had wall texts and we had an audio guide. And then we also had for every drawing a label providing the usual information on artist, title, techniques, inventory number. So but what we also did for each work was adding a description. So you cannot see it here. Adding a description of maximum 2 sentences that really highlighted the significance of each particular work in the story on functions. And so we even put them on in red. So it was clear that this was what it was actually all about. And so for this drawing by Antonie van Dijk, Christ and the woman taken in adultery, these sentences say, so it's all very short sentences. So Van Dijk, and it says here, Van Dijk draws a free interpretation of a painting by Titian. He signs his study, and to him, this drawing has much more significance than a mere copy. And so this is the basic information that you get, but in addition, for many works, we also provided some extra information in a QR code that you could scan here. When entering each exhibition room. And so in this QR code, when opening it, you get an overview of all the exhibition rooms on which you can click. And then you had, for each room, all the drawings that were shown with an image on which you could click. And then then you could find some additional information on each drawings and also related images, such as, for example, here for Van Dyck, you could also see the painting by Titian that Van Dyck was copying in his drawing. And so next to this, we also had a film on drawing techniques. We also had, at the end of the exhibition, a film in which a couple of experts, among Anne van Kamp, who was telling about a couple of particular drawings in the exhibition. And then we had this space where visitors could like a separate space where visitors could start drawing themselves in the manner of the old masters. And this was also a very popular thing. What we also did was making, for some albums and sketchbooks, we made reproductions of the complete sketchbook, so the visitor could really browse through it and get an idea of how it looked like. And then we also have this, we made a couple of tactile blocks. I don't know we call it in Dutch voelelementen. So that were to be touched by the visitors on which they could feel the lines of the drawings with their hands. And so, and then we also, of course, we had our very extensive catalog. And in this catalog, so each of the themes of the exhibition, so the study, design, and independent drawings, is introduced to the reader by means of a thorough essay that places the selected drawings within a broader functional context. And each essay is then followed by the entries on the drawings selected for each theme. And so, of course, as drawings are often multifunctional, and this is also something that we really address in the exhibition, but it's not always easy to place them within a certain category, and especially not in a book. But sometimes we just had to make a decision there. But in every entry, the drawing's specific function is giving full attention. And so the good thing of this approach is that several drawings have never been properly discussed from this point of view. And so the challenge of considering possible functional contexts created new things of looking at these drawings. And then other contributions of the catalogue is the inclusions of several drawings that were unpublished before, or which never received proper discussion before. And so a couple of attributions were reassessed, and also the watermarks have been photographed and analyzed. And so then I give the floor to back to Anne, who is going to focus again on the exhibition in Oxford.
Just to start off that, we're so incredibly grateful to Virginie and the Plantamorators to choosing the Ashmolean as the second partner. And it was really a dream come true, for me coming from Antwerp and Plantamorators being my favorite museum, and then to collaborate on one of my favorite subjects, Flemish drawings, and also to then, as Virginie said, to adapt that show, because I really wanted to include the Oxford drawings, so not just Ashmolean Museum, but also Christchurch Picture Gallery and Bodleian Libraries. And I think, that was really magnanimous of Virginie to not sort of insist, like, no, you take my show, take it or leave it. This is how it is, the package. But that she allowed us in Oxford to then to choose the best of the Antwerp drawings on display in her show, and then add half of the Oxford drawings to that. And I think, as you mentioned, Virginie, I think it makes for two really interesting and, dare I say, amazing exhibitions, which are really different. But I think both are really, and as you said, perfect exhibitions individually. So I'm really happy with how it panned out. And it's stimulating to see a similar selection of drawing in so many different ways. And so at the Ashmolean Museum, because as you've probably already noticed from the video walkthrough and from Virginie's photos of her exhibition, and I think a lot of you have already been on the CODARTfocus too, Plantamoretus earlier this year to see the show there. The venues themselves are very different. So we have 3 huge exhibition galleries with high ceilings in Oxford. Well, Plantamoretus is, of course, set in a historic building with lower ceilings and smaller galleries. So I had to add to that selection in order to fill the galleries, and also because I wanted to feature the Oxford drawings. And of course, because we're in Oxford and not in Antwerp, I also felt I had to educate our visitors a bit more, because with Virginie, they're already in the Plantamoretus, they know they're in Antwerp, they know they're in Flanders, they're set in a 16th, 17th century context. Well, for a British public, who are Bruegel to Rubens, and what are drawings, and why do we call them Flemish? So I started the exhibition with a geographical context of what the southern Netherlands are and what exactly is Flemish. Also, the cities of Antwerp and Brussels, which I've shown in 2 Ashmolean drawings. I think you can see my cursor on the screen as well. So we got a beautiful Hans Bol of view of Antwerp, and then also an Antonis van de Wijngaard of the view of Brussels, because as you saw from Virginie's show, we could not fit in the 10-meter long panorama of Walcheren, but luckily the Ashmoleans got one of the largest collections of Antonis van de Wijngaard drawings in the world. So we could pick and mix. And so I chose the view of Brussels because then I could incorporate as a geographical context. And then the first section, as you could see, also sort of had these 4 introductory drawings. And very corny, we start the exhibition with a Bruegel drawing and a Rubens drawing in order to illustrate the title. But also these 4 sheets were selected because they're all in different techniques and they have different purposes. So we start with a landscape sketch by Bruegel in pen and ink. Then we have a copy after an antique sculpture in opaque watercolors. Then we have a Jordan study from life in black and white chalk, and then an anonymous design for an altarpiece in watercolor. So just to give that setting. And when you walk into the first room, I really wanted to drill down sort of the materiality of the drawings, because I wanted our visitor to understand how these drawings were made and why they were made. So we've got that showcase with the materials and techniques. So you see chalks, charcoal, pens, brushes, watercolors, inks, graphite even, and then to show some of them were made in sketchbooks and some were made on loose sheets. And then here the showcase that you already saw in the video, where I sort of tried to recreate Rubens's desk. And this was not included at the beginning when we were planning the exhibition. And so we sort of put it all together at very short notice with lots of help of our colleagues across the museum. And I think it's brilliant that the Ashmolean was sort of able to gather all these objects from across the departments, which then match to Rubens' drawings, to really visualize how Rubens made his drawings. And then Virginie explains how they did the interpretation. So, of course, at the Ashmolean, we also, as curators, you have to work very closely to the interpretation department, who are part of the big audiences team. And so the Ashmolean is very different from Antwerp, because we're still very traditionally all for printed labels on the walls. So as you can see from the photo here, every work of art in the exhibition either has an individual label or a group label if it's for a group of objects. And we put the images on the labels themselves. And yeah, I don't know. I don't think there's a right or wrong when it comes to that. Personally, I prefer the paper label, because then you don't get distracted by your mobile phone and having to click QR codes and look up for the further information. I think I sort of like to see everything at one glance. And then, of course, in every label, I sort of try to draw the attention of the visitors back to the drawing after they have read the labels. And maybe in the distance here, you see a yellow square. So throughout the exhibition, we have 6 labels for families. And obviously, an exhibition on Flemish Old Master drawings was not targeted at families, but surprisingly, lots of children and toddlers and babies are in the exhibition, and lots of them are drawings that I feel were inspiring the next generation of artists here. And then the light issue. So we've already shown the movement sensor, for instance, for the torso belvedere in the video, and then how Virginie solved that in Antwerp with the light switch. And so, as I said, our galleries look very different from the Planta Moretus one. So you see, we have very high ceilings. For that reason, we only painted them sort of up to a certain height. I can't remember now whether it was 2.5 or 3 meters. But you see, there's a lot more light sort of bouncing off from those wide ceilings that we have on our wooden floor. And we got the exact same lux levels as Planta Moretus, so 35, and then the most fragile drawings on 20 lux. But for some reason, it looks a lot more lighter with those wide ceilings at the Ashmolean. And then this is our drawing station. And so as you saw from Virginie's, they had this sort of cabinet with lots of objects. And so we decided to do graphics on the wall, and literally thousands of drawings have been made already. And we've only been open for, I think it's our 6th week at the moment. So it's been hugely popular. People also buying the catalog and coming back in to draw other drawings because they didn't, I think they got bored of the selection on the wall here. And so it's really nice. And my personal favorite, as you can tell, is James, who made copies after Martin de Vos, the worm. I'm not sure what he was trying to draw here, so I still need to investigate that in the exhibition. But I think we've discovered a real talent here at the Ashmolean. And then, so as Virginie said, so I added roughly half of the exhibition with drawings from Oxford. And so, of course, our obvious, like usual suspects, the really famous Rubens drawings that we have, the torso, the portrait of Arundel, the woodland scene. Then, of course, our Van Dyck. It's probably our only good Van Dyck that we have, of Christ being mocked and so being pulled in order to be crowned with thorns. Then the famous Bruegel Temptation of St. Anthony. So these were sort of no-brainers for us to include in an exhibition of Flemish drawings. Less well known is perhaps this set of Martin de Vos roundels. We got 5 of them. And 4 of them match with a series of lead plaquettes that we also have in the Ashmolean Museum, which is really extraordinary to have both the metal objects and the drawings. The drawings are in size, they match perfectly for the design of the plaquettes, so they were actually used for the transfer of the designs. So it's quite nice to see them on display for the first time together as a set of 8. Then some again, some lesser known drawings, so which I think the Boschart and the Van Diepenbeek have been published before. But then the middle one, the Justus van Egmond, for instance, hasn't been published. So as Virginie said, for the Antwerp catalogue, we also tried to include as many drawings in Oxford which hadn't been researched yet, which hadn't been displayed yet or published yet. So that was a real treat to sort of go through our boxes and find all these hidden treasures in there. Also for these 2 drawings, the self-portrait by Jan Cossiers and the Flight into Egypt by Jacques Fouquier, these have never been published or displayed before. And then some wildcards. So I put in some like the mountainous landscape on the left, and then the ruins of the Bath of Caracalla at the right. I'm not entirely convinced it's by Jan Bruegel, but I thought I don't know. And so if I put them in the exhibition and I list them in the catalogue, so then at least they sort of enter the realm of future research again, and we can start talking about their attribution. And in a few weeks' time, we'll have an experts meeting and a study day held in Oxford. So I look forward to discussing these with the experts and also, again, with Virginie exchanging ideas on the drawings in the exhibition. And then our famous worm. And so, as you could tell from the video, we managed to pair him up with the dog from the Planta Moretus. And so it's a really fascinating wall because you've sort of got that very still, slow-moving, possibly dead worm who is then being chased by this dog who is very excited. And so, yeah, so now we've sort of entered the section here as well where the collaboration, the partnership of Oxford and Antwerp really contributed to the selection of drawings. And this is another example of this. So the Ashmolean, for instance, has the design drawing by Rubens for the title page of the collected works of the bishops, and Dionysius and Panthamoratus still has the copper plate. Of course, they've got several printed versions of the book as well, but we decided to take one from Christchurch Picture Gallery. And then these two drawings, so the book horse, Apollo of the Nine Muses, Panthamoratus has a version, we have a version. The Panthamoratus one was not included in Virginie's show, but I really wanted it to sit alongside our own drawing. And if you can tell, there's all these strips added to both sheets, and there's even lettering, writing that you can see through it. And so Virginie are hoping to sort of collaborate on trying to decipher and maybe link up and jigsaw puzzle the text on the back. And then here we got the lovely Meyer van den Berg, which I was desperate to show with the hoofnagel to sort of show these two cabinet miniatures by maybe Bol was a teacher of hoofnagel to finally show them side by side. And then, of course, the album Amicorum with the contribution by Ortelius, which Virginie then also put a version of in her exhibition. So then about the catalog, and here you see a screenshot of the website. So you could buy it at a very democratic price of £25, which is a bargain, obviously. And so, as Virginie mentioned, she had this amazing grant from the Getty Foundation, which I didn't have because well, Virginie already got a grant for the Getty, so we couldn't apply for both, but there also wasn't enough time to start it. And so in the end, I went away on sabbatical last year from January to June and managed to spend a few months of that sabbatical writing the catalogue. And so it meant that because it was very different from the Antwerp catalogue, because it was a mixture of Oxford and Antwerp sheets, that I was able to write it all by myself. And so it's not similarly constructed as Virginie's catalogue with catalogue entries for each drawing, but instead it's with essays. And so the two catalogues do complement each other. And I had a lot of fun writing this catalogue because I could sort of pour everything I knew about drawing and drawings and Flemish drawings into one book in those 5 essays. So there's a first essay which talks about the act of drawing and what a drawing is. Then what are the South Netherlands and what is the political and religious and cultural context against which these drawings were made. Then the 3 functions, so studying, designing, and independent drawings. And then I incorporated a feature into each of these chapters. So the first one is traveling to Italy and copying the antique. The second one, collaborations in print design, in which, of course, the partnership with the Panthamoratus fitted perfectly. And then the third one is those friendship albums. And so Virginie already mentioned that with their project, they were keen to have an international partner to sort of put their exhibition and their collection on an international map. And so I think we really succeeded in Oxford. Like, we've had lots of press attention. Like, for the first time, I think the Ashmolean has received reviews from all the national newspapers in the UK, which is really a miracle. And they all agreed that it was a 4-star show. So we're very glad. And as you can see, lots of the Antwerp drawings and the Antwerp partnerships have also been mentioned in the newspaper. So I think the goal was succeeded. And Virginie and I even made it in the local Oxford Mail here, and Clara from the Rubens house has made a feature as well. So it's all been really fun. And so now I'm going to invite Virginie back, because we promised that we would talk about 3 drawings which we've both included in our both shows, but we've sort of slightly approached differently. And so here on the left, you see Rubens's drawing of the Gemma Tiberiana, which is a copy. And so it's in both our exhibitions. It's in the first exhibition room of the study drawings of the copies and the sketches. So it's copied after a cameo, the largest cameo, Roman cameo that has ever been found, which was rediscovered in Paris in 1620 by one of Rubens's best friends, Perez. In Saint-Chapelle it was discovered. So Rubens went to Paris to draw it. And so the Planta Moretus Museum has the drawing, which presumably Rubens made when it was first discovered in 1620. And what is interesting is that afterwards, an engraving was made after it. And then, of course, for those of you who have been to the Ashmolean has a much larger version in painting of the drawing as well, which you can sort of see is more stylized or more Rubenized than the original. And so it was interesting, sort of, where do you put this drawing? Because is it merely a copy after the gem, or was it maybe initially made to be made as a print study? And did Rubens then later on maybe use it as a study for paintings? But I think in the end, both Virginie and I agreed that it would be a copy or a study after the Gemma Tibriana, which is now in the Bibliothèque Nationale de France in Paris. Do you want to add something to that, Virginie?
No, just that this is such a marvelous example of like, is it or is it just both? I think it's a study of the original cameo, but which also served to make the print. So it's really, it would make sense in both within both themes. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that was the joy of our exhibitions as well, to sort of, and even the catalogs, like in which function do we place these drawings? And sometimes it's ambiguous, sometimes we could put them in each of the sections. Sometimes in hindsight now I feel, oh, maybe I could have put that drawing in another section, but I did make that decision at that point to then put it in the first section or in the second section. So it's quite flexible and quite engaging to sort of keep thinking about the drawing.
Yeah, and sometimes just also decisions are made due to practical matters. So there's a lot of going on, of course, when you're installing a work of art.
Exactly. Yeah, I think we both have examples where one of the drawings could have fitted in another room, or should have fitted in the theme of another room, but then because we didn't have the space in that other room, we decided to focus more on one of the other functions of the drawing. Yeah. And then, do you want to start talking about this?
This is like two examples where we actually did not. We did not place the drawing within the same section, basically. Yes. So again, we're like showing how these functions of drawings. Yeah, I mean, it's not just like so fixed to one category. And so on the left, you see a late 17th century design for a ceiling decorations by Gottfried Maas that was to be shown to a patron or to a client. And we can see this because of the different options that are given in this design, where the client could choose from. So at one side, you see more round medallions, and on the other side, you can see that there are more oval medallions. And so it was up to the client to decide what he wanted. And also in the corners, you have like more architectural design, but you could also prefer a more figurative corner. So we do not know any related decoration, and so the central figure. But the central figure was probably to be painted, but we do not know about the architecture, whether it was to be painted or rather sculpted. And so I chose to place this design within the category of designs for paintings next to other drawings that were probably intended to be shown to patrons. And in fact, I even put it next to this other sheet that is shown here. It's a drawing by Jan Erasmus Qualinis, which is also a late 17th century Flemish artist, and which is a drawing that was probably a design for a painting in the Royal Museums of Fine Arts in Antwerp. Because we know that there is a painting preserved there with the same topic, only nobody has ever actually seen it, and there is no picture of it. So I asked in the museum, because it's rolled up, and so they haven't opened it. So we cannot confirm the hypothesis, but what we do know is that Jan Erasmus Querlinus made other similar preparatory drawings for paintings that are in style and in setup very similar to this one. So and this is why I also showed this within the theme design for paintings, within design to be shown to a patron. And so Anne...
Yeah, and so I've shown this in the last room, in the room with the independent drawings, because it's a huge picture. It's almost a meter tall, I think, or am I exaggerating, Virginie? It's a large drawing. So it's very worked up, and you've sort of got the opaque washes in the background as well. It's also signed in the corner, although I think in this slideshow I've partly cut off the signature, haven't I? It's very unfortunate, but it's signed in a very elaborate way. So I was wondering whether it was sort of more meant as a presentation drawing, as an independent sheet. And as Virginie said, we don't know how the painting at the Royal Museum of Fine Arts looks like, because it has never been photographed, and they're reluctant for conservation reasons to unroll the picture with the same title. So it could be a completely different picture that we don't know it, or it could be a painting with exactly the same composition, in which case this could have been a preparatory study for the painting first, and then maybe further worked up and signed to be given to the commissioner of the painting. So that was sort of my reasoning for hanging it in the independent section. And then the Gottfried Maas is also signed here in the lower left corner. And so I also put it in the design drawings room, but instead of for designs for paintings, I put it as designs for architecture, because of the emphasis on the different options in the architectural surround of the painting. So it shows that the two exhibitions sort of harked back onto the same sort of thought processes and difficult choices we had to make, and how we then each interpreted or displayed them differently. And then I think that's what we wanted to say about these, isn't it, Virginie?
Yes, thank you so much for your presentations. Wonderful to see. Okay, then it's time to close this meeting. Thank you so much, Anne and Virginie. And I see a lot of thank yous coming in the chat room as well. Thank you all for joining, participants, and hopefully see you next time.